No, no. Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. And this is Chris. He's our assistant tech team lead here.
Hello.
He's going to help me with some announcements. But before we tell them what's up, let's start here. Just to give you a reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there is always one thing we don't do, and y'all can shout it out on a count of three, all four words. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame, but there's some other important things coming up that y'all might want to know about.
Yeah, what we do around here is community. So if you're new to Free and this is your first time here, we've got welcome bags for those folks who are new. And to get one of those, you just connect with one of our home team members, and they'll get you one of these handy-dandy bags that you see here. And it's got some swag in there, some stickers, a couple of wristbands, which I think are particularly cool, a Connect card. So that we can get your information and stay connected with you, as well as a little bit of wagon coffee, which is some of the freshest coffee you will ever have, because it's roasted right here on site in that machine that I can see just from the stage right there. And it's fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
we're going to show a little video on that in just a minute.
Well, we're right on. And so, yeah, we've got welcome bags for you. We've also got some events coming up. This Thursday is going to be our Sober Open Mic Night. Yes.
Woo!
Sponsored by Colorado Artists in Recovery and the Hornbuckle Foundation, and we put this on with the Phoenix.
Yep.
And we've been doing this every other month for a couple of years now, and it's a fantastic event where we just showcase the talents and wonderful artistry of our clean and sober community members. And usually it's about a dozen folks or so, and the level of talent is super, super high.
Yeah,
it is. Always, I'm always blown away.
And Abby Alt hosts that evening. She's our MC, our very own Abby Alt, and
yeah,
she's
fantastic.
funny.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, if you haven't come, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's a lot of fun. The cafe's open. It's packed house in here.
Yep.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time. So come on out Thursday. It starts at 7 o'clock. Get here a little bit early, grab a cup of coffee, and yeah, we'll all be here. It'll be awesome. Also coming up after this
Easter
Sunday,
is coming up.
Saturday.
Ooh, Easter. For us, it's on Saturday night, but Easter weekend is next weekend. So Saturday night, Scott Mounts, go ahead and stand up with Transition Sober Living. Scott Mounts will be here because you cannot have Easter without cotton candy. We're going to have a cotton candy machine. So bring the kids, bring the family. There's going to be an Easter egg hunt and cotton candy in between the services. So after the 5 o'clock, before the 7 o'clock. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do, if you weren't here last year for Easter, we did what we called the comeback. That was our theme for the evening. This year, next week, it's going to be the comeback part, dos. I don't know why I said that in Spanish. Comeback part 2, because there's more to say when it comes to these really interesting and transformative resurrection stories in the New Testament. Fascinating stuff. So the comeback part 2. And if you are in recovery, you know something about the comeback.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. All right, Chris, there's something else happening.
Yeah, we also have the Grounded Warrior mini retreat coming up again, and this was a fantastic event. It was super popular last time, and Maggie Barfoot puts this on, and it's an all-day event here. I believe it's $60, but it's a fantastic day to come in and ground yourself and get in touch with a bunch of different types of teachers of various modalities. And yeah, if you want more information, that's coming up on April 14th. And so if you'd like more information, reach out to Maggie. You can take a screenshot of this thing or ask after the service for more information. And now I'm going to pass this over.
Yeah, Darren's going to tell us about the art show coming up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Darren with Colorado Artists in Recovery. As many of you may know, we do free art, music, and meditation workshops for people in recovery to help them find a new piece of themselves. And 14 of our artists have been working very hard. They're going to put on an art show on April 5th. It's a Friday, the first Friday of April, here at Free Spiritual Community from 5 to 8 p.m. We're even going to have a chalk artist out front doing a large mural of a hummingbird, and there'll be coffee from Wagon Coffee. Tammy will be serving it up, and a little live music, and then lots of wonderful art from our participants that you can purchase or just come and check out. We'd love to have you join us.
It's going to be a good time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Darren. That's not this coming Friday, but next Friday. And April 5th, yes. One more thing, Chris.
Yes, and one last announcement. So I'm a member of the tech team. We all hang out in the tech cave back there, and there's Bobby and Matt, and we got Chase tonight, and we basically we're losing Matt at the end of the month. He's moving to Hawaii. Poor thing. I know
well,
it's a
great
hardship.
for him.
Save it for heartaches. But seriously, Matt's been an integral part of our team, and we're going to need more volunteers. So if you're interested in learning about audiovisual technology, about live streaming, about what we do to make this whole thing go on, please reach out to Bobby or myself after service. Number on the screen. There's also an email. Just knock on the door back there and let us know you're interested. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Grateful for all that you do. All right, before we do celebrations, I want to show you the video. CBS News was here a couple of weeks ago doing a story on Wagon Coffee. Tammy Canaday, my wife, who's not here tonight, she is with all of our 4 kids, made a road trip to Omaha. She's got family in Omaha. And tomorrow they'll be traveling back, so I'm batching it this weekend. I'm going to go home to a quiet house. And anyway, CBS was here, and they were doing a story on Wagon Coffee and the partnership with Free. Here's the
March
story.
is Women's History Month, and we are highlighting women who are blazing their own trail.
In 2020, Tammy Canaday started Wagon Coffee in Denver. And as I found out, Wagon is employing and empowering women in recovery. For Tammy Canaday, coffee has been her life's work.
My entire background is coffee. Even in college, coffee, that was what I loved to do.
After spending more than a decade in the corporate coffee world, Tammy decided to start her own company, Wagon Coffee. But Wagon is about more than just good beans. It's also about brewing up employment and volunteer opportunities for women in recovery.
Why women in particular?
So back in the day at our old space, I had women come into me before we would have our meetings or our services, and they'd stay after, and they're like, if I go home, I'm gonna drink or I'm gonna use. I just felt like they were really like needing to find a safe space for healing, and I felt like I was able to offer that.
Kira McAllister is one of those women who's benefiting from Tammy's vision. She's been volunteering with Wagon since 2020.
Women, we do recovery a little bit different than men. You know, we have a different way of relating. We're emotional. You know, we feel more comfortable around other women. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to have women help women in recovery.
Wagon is headquartered and sold at Free Recovery Community in Denver, the organization that's run by Tammy's husband, Ryan, who's been sober for 11 years and was Tammy's inspiration for starting Wagon.
It's roasted here on site. Wagon Coffee is our dealer, our hope dealer, you know. But it's people get to invest in a mission that gives back.
In addition to Free Cafe, Wagon Coffee is sold in more than 100 different locations. But for Tammy, the grind never stops.
I've said I want to be in every treatment center, sober living home, things touched by recovery here in Colorado. That would be a goal. But then I want to spread across state lines. You've heard of the term falling off the wagon. So we are being the wagon and providing employment structure skills to women in recovery. So helping them up, providing second chances, and giving back that way.
There was intention behind that name.
Very much so, yeah.
Woo, woo, woo! Okay, y'all, the way we get started here on a Saturday night at Free is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good, and something very profound happens when we celebrate together. We believe that God joins with us in the celebrations, a very important part of our time together. We take 3 minutes for this, so if you are, maybe you're celebrating a sober anniversary or a birthday or whatever the new thing is you're experiencing in recovery, we want to celebrate it together. So we take 3 minutes. Chandra and Andrew, who is our guest storyteller later tonight. I'll say more about that later. They'll pass around a mic. All you got to do is raise up your hand. And by the way, if you're joining us online, I forgot to say hi to you guys. I mean, I said it online, but let me say it in the camera. I'm glad you're here. You are us, we are you. If you have a celebration, drop it in the YouTube comments, the Facebook comments, and we will celebrate with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
I'm Alexandra. I'm 41 days sober.
All right, Alexandra. That's good stuff.
Hi, I'm I'm Jill, and tomorrow I'll be celebrating 18 months of sobriety.
18 months, Jill. Way to go. Is this like a double celebration?
I'm Dara, and I celebrated yesterday my 1 year sober.
Oh, Dara, 1 year. Dara's our guest storyteller next week for Easter because you're going to hear a real story of coming back to life.
I am Melanie. I'm an alcoholic. I'm 106 days sober today.
Way to go, Melanie!
And I've just been jumping back into my art practice because I love it, and it's something that I've been rediscovering. So just really celebrating my artistic side again. Thank you.
All right, Melanie, we will celebrate that.
My name's James. I've been sober since the Super Bowl.
All right, James, I'm glad you're here, buddy. And it's James's first night here. He's been tuning in online, but it's his first night here in person. So glad you're here, buddy. Yeah, welcome.
My name is Chris. I'm an addict, and I'd like to celebrate the fact that for almost 2 years I dreamt of the day in which my family would join me here at Free, and I'd be joined by my lovely wife Natasha and by my daughter Brielle, and I'd see her playing in the kids' room and playing ping pong out there. I dreamt and had visions of those days, and those days are happening now, and I just want to thank Free and thank everybody in recovery and thank God.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Congratulations, Chris and family.
My name's Josh, and I think I'm on 16 days.
Way to go, Josh. That's a big deal, dude.
Bye.
Glad you're here tonight. Anyone else? We got time for one more.
My name's Rebecca, and I'm thankful to find a recovery house where I could take my baby straight from the hospital and all these lovely ladies who helped me out.
All right, which recovery house is it? What's it called? Reflections for Women. And I see you all are wearing the hat. It's good to have you all here tonight. Thank you, Chandra and Andrew. We've got one more big celebration, saving it for last. Adam, you want to come join me up here? Adam Castle, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's why this is a big deal. Adam was headed here to Free on Christmas Eve. Remember the Christmas Eve service we did? Because Christmas Eve was Sunday. Yeah, you remember this night. We did it on Saturday night. You were headed here and you were in a terrible motorcycle accident. He's been in the hospital until just 2 days ago, and here he is alive in person. It's good to have you here, buddy. Oh, sorry, I should give you that.
It's all good. I mean, I couldn't imagine hanging out at a better place. You guys come here to get your spirituality and your fellowship and your sobriety, and it's a great place to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm
and I'm happy to be back.
It's good to have you back, dude. And let me just say this. Adam's going to have some pretty significant medical bills coming his way and other things that just to live life, bills that come your way. So there's a GoFundMe page. I actually put it on my personal Facebook page. If you are friends with me, even if you're not friends with me, you can go to my page. And that GoFundMe is there. It's on your page. I know it's on Scott's page. It's on a lot of our pages. And all the help he can get would be a cool thing.
Yeah, I was just actually just trying to just show up, not really pedal for anything.
I know, and he did not ask me to say that. You're probably. I didn't mean to embarrass you.
You're good, man.
But we're just glad you're here. And if you know Adam, he has dedicated his life to giving back and serving, and he's a big part of this community, and we are glad you're back.
Thank you.
Shall we celebrate with our online people?
Let's do it.
All right, you want to read the first one?
All right. Carrie Hunt. Hi, Free family. Just wanted to celebrate my friend Jeff Haberman celebrating with us in Mequon, Wisconsin tonight. Welcome.
All right, we'll celebrate that, Carrie. Christy Romig, who was our guest storyteller last week, said, I celebrated 4 months sober on Thursday. Way to go, Christy.
Juanita Johnson, hello recovery, 5 months free from meth.
All right, way to go, Juanita.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And Beth says, saying hello to all my people there tonight. Can't be there in person, but still here 5 days sober today. Much love. Beth, congratulations on 5 days. Keep doing it. Keep doing it, one day at a time.
Nisha Razak. I'm Nisha, and I'm 1 month sober from drugs and alcohol.
Way to go, Nisha.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Doug Petty says, 34 days sober. Way to go, Doug. Keep doing it, buddy.
Kay Ditas, celebrating 830 days clean today and signed up for prerequisite classes towards a nursing degree this last Monday.
All right, Kay.
Congratulations.
The new things we get in recovery. You too could be a nurse.
I've been there long enough.
You probably could. Kai, who celebrated a year with us last week, tonight she's celebrating 372 days free of fentanyl. Miss you guys.
Yeah,
way to go,
congrats.
Kai. We're glad you're part of this community. Thanks, buddy. It is so good to have you back.
It's great to be back.
All right, you want me to take that from you? I will. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, Adam Castle, alive and breathing. I said the only thing that would have made it better is if he would have waited to come next week on Easter. The true comeback story. Yeah, we have these comeback stories around here in more ways than one. But so here's what we're going to do tonight. I want to talk about God's Not Dope, because next week is Easter. And then after Easter, I want to follow up with a series called Now What? So you have the resurrection. Okay, now what? So you relapsed. Okay, now what? So your family's a disaster. Now what? So we're going to just do some now whats. That'll be the week after Easter. But tonight, God's Not Dope. You know, when I picked up a drink, I immediately felt better. And it didn't matter if I was happy or sad or up or down or grieving or celebrating. I immediately felt better because the effects produced by alcohol or pills were immediate. And I liked those effects. It was the instant dopamine hit. And y'all, we have to remember that alcohol has a very powerful effect on the dopamine activity in our brains, which means when we pick up or when we pick up a drink, the reward circuits in our brains are just flooded with dopamine, and this produces euphoric feelings. Like, no wonder so many of us were chasing after this feeling. And what happens with these euphoric feelings, it creates this coming back of more because it's instant gratification, so it keeps us coming back. You know, we want that feeling, the feeling that alleviates pain and enhances the happy. And we don't want to wait for that feeling. We want it now, and we want more of it. And you know that more is never enough. And in recovery, y'all, what happens? We trade in the drink or the drugs for a spiritual life where we become dependent on God. And here's the problem. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to treat God and the spiritual the same way you treat your addiction? Instant gratification. We want that feeling that alleviates pain and enhances the happy. And if that doesn't work, if the feeling doesn't hit immediately, we say, well, it just doesn't work. The God stuff doesn't work. And we don't want to wait. We want it now, and we want more of it. And my brothers and sisters, God's not dope. And the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. Anyone ever heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? A few of you. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was an early 20th century pastor and theologian and activist, very well known for his resistance of Hitler and the Nazi dictatorship. In fact, this cost him his life. He was executed by the Nazi regime. And in all the writings we have from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, we see that he was concerned that the Christian church was just using God as a theological crutch. In fact, he described it with this phrase, the Deus ex machina, which translates as God out of the machine, and here's how it worked. In ancient Greece, he's taking this image from ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, they had this certain technique they used in plays where there was a machine, a crane-like machine on the side of the stage, and mid-play, the crane-like machine would drop in a character onto the center stage, and this was to introduce the supernatural being, the godlike character, the Deus ex machina. And this character was dropped in to relieve all the tension, take the pain away, resolve the conflict, and fix everything for the main characters so that the plot could keep moving forward. And I would ask you, has our understanding of God and the spiritual simply become another Deus ex machina? And what do? When the machine works to our advantage, well, we say God is good. God is worthy of my praise and adoration, but if the machine doesn't function, we're filled with disappointment and we ultimately walk away. And Bonhoeffer was saying this is what the church has become. We beg for this God to be dropped onto the center of our stage when we encounter questions and doubts and uncertainties and tragedies happen in our life. And when this God doesn't appear, we shout, failure. This God don't work. God doesn't care. Do you all know, before getting sober, my understanding of God was very much so the Deus ex machina, God out of the machine. My understanding of God was very transactional rather than relational. 3 years, this is going all the way back to high school, for 3 years, while my older brother was battling this disease of alcoholism and addiction, man, I prayed for him every day. Prayed hard for that boy. Still have the journals to prove it. I remember so many days in high school, I would wake up and go out on the porch with Mom, and we'd have our coffee, and we would pray for my brother, her oldest son. And the thing is, I was so certain God was going to be dropped onto the center stage, and God was going to resolve this conflict. I was so certain that God was going to come in and save his life. And then at the age of 22, I was 18, he was 22, Brandon died of this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction. And man, I can't tell you, for years, I had this thinking of, God, I don't get it. I did everything right. I did everything you asked me to do. I gave this to you. I prayed for him, and you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. You did nothing except create death. This is your fault. You don't work, and I ultimately walked away. And for years, prior to getting sober, man, I would beg God, come take away this desire for the booze. God, you see what it's doing to me. You see the problem it's creating. Why'd you give me the desire in the first place? Just take this desire away from me. And I would pray it and pray it and pray it and then get drunk again. And it took me a long time to see. In fact, it took me getting into recovery to see that God does not get dropped on a stage and come into my life and start taking things from me. But God waits patiently and graciously for me to willingly give. The same with my character defects. You ever pray to God and say, God, please take away this character defect. It's causing all sorts of problems in my life. No, Ryan, I will not come in and take that from you. You have to willingly give it to me. You see, maybe you're here tonight and you're saying to yourself, man, I just don't get it. Maybe you're sitting in your living room right now watching this and you're saying, I don't get it. Man, I've done everything right in the play. I've done everything right. I come on Saturday nights, or I tune in on Saturday nights. I'm connected to my recovery. I work my program of recovery. I'm connected to people, but it's like the machine on the side of the stage is broken. Yeah. Yeah, drugs and alcohol, they're out of my life. But when it comes to the spiritual stuff, the center of my life, I actually have more questions and more doubts and more discomfort. And my brothers and sisters, God's not dope. The spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. You know, one of my favorite philosophers and theologians, his name is Peter Rollins. Anyone ever heard of Peter Rollins? A couple of you. Peter Rollins, if you haven't read his work, I highly recommend it. You can start with his book called Insurrection. The subtitle is To Believe is Human, to Doubt Divine. How great is that? Peter Rollins has a bit where he talks about how the modern day church is a lot like a crack house. And he says, yeah, think about it. He says, we go through hard things in life. Maybe you go through a breakup, a hard breakup. And what do? We turn to drugs and alcohol because, well, it takes away that painful feeling. It kind of numbs it out, and we don't have to think about it. And he says it actually works, but the problem is the next day you wake up and you're hungover, and all those old feelings are just back again, right back to where they started, and we have to do the whole thing over again because we're never really dealing with what's in here. And he says for so many people, that's what church is. You go to church and you throw your hands in the air and you sing songs to God and tell Jesus how much you love him and he's your boyfriend and life is great. And then you leave there because your week sucked, but this was a good moment. Then you leave there and your week sucks again. And you have to do the whole thing over again because you never really dealt with what was in here. Church was just a way to mask the emotions. And he says, now contrast that with going to a show to see one of your favorite singer-songwriters. I mean, isn't it something? They can stand on a stage in front of thousands of people and they can sing their lyrics and scream about their own pain and suffering that they've encountered, and somehow it allows you to connect with your own brokenness in a way that allows us to actually face it. Man, that's interesting, isn't it? Any U2 fans out there? Bono? Me too. Isn't it interesting? They can go to Red Rocks Amphitheater and stand in front of thousands of people and scream and shout their lyrics to the song called Beautiful Day, one of the most popular songs. And we can all scream it back and sing it back to them and dance and shout together. And it's a song about a man who has lost everything and he's finding a bit of joy in what little he has left. And somehow, think about your favorite singer-songwriter, the show you went to. Somehow, when you left that, you didn't expect it, but when you left that concert, you actually did the work of mourning. You came face to face with your own emotions in a way that allowed you to face it. You actually did the work of coming face to face with what you're capable of and what the world is capable of. You actually, and you didn't expect this to happen, but you started to seek change within or change in the world. And Peter Rollins says that, yeah, this is what singer-songwriters do. They intentionally bring you deeper into the real emotions so that you can face your own. But for so many people, church is just a way to mask the emotions and get your weekly fix. And my brothers and sisters, God's not dope. And the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. And here's why I think this stuff matters. Because how many of us have tried to create an image of God that is simply transactional? God, I'll give you this, but you're going to give me that. And that you give me, it better hit immediately. And I better feel it, and it better feel good. And if God doesn't complete the transaction the way I see fit, then we say, well, God's not good and the spiritual life doesn't work. And is it possible that you want the same high? Now you just want it with God and the spiritual rather than the booze and the drugs. And when things go awry in your life, when the hard hits, you beg God to be dropped into the play to alleviate the tension, to take away the pain, to fix whatever the hard thing is you're going through. And if it's not fixed, if the pain is still there, then you say, well, God doesn't work and the spiritual life isn't worth it. And when it comes to you practicing spiritual principles in your life, you'll do it, but only on the guarantee that you will always feel it. And it will always feel good. So you'll do prayer, you'll do forgiveness, you'll do making amends, you'll do the reading of scripture or other sacred text, but only if you feel good. Y'all, I can't tell you how many times I have said, or how many times it's been said to me, well, you got to understand. I tried the reading of scripture thing in the morning, and I tried the reading of the daily reflection, which is part of my program. And after time, I didn't feel it anymore. So I don't really do that anymore. Or we'll say things like, well, you got to understand, I tried the whole prayer thing. I tried to get on my knees and pray because my sponsor told me to get on my knees and pray. And I tried doing it, but you just got to understand, over time, I wasn't feeling it. It didn't really give anything to me. You see, the spiritual life, it's slow and it's steady. You have to remember you are being made new in all those spiritual practices, even if you don't feel it. Because my brothers and sisters, God is not dope, and the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. I would ask you, are you able to shift your understanding of God from transactional to relational? There's a beautiful letter in the New Testament. It's called Galatians. And it's written to the first century church in the ancient city of Galatia. And they are really struggling with this transactional God. Their thinking is, well, God, if we give you this, which we did, we gave you these things, now you're going to give to us, right? You're going to give us the that. And Paul steps in and writes them this letter. Midway through the letter, chapter 3, you can read it later. Paul said this to him. He drops these lines. And by the way, if you're a person who identifies as one in recovery, see if this is not your story, if this doesn't just capture it. He says to them, let me put this question to you. How did your new life begin? Was it by working your heads off to please God? Or was it by responding to God's message to you? Are you going to continue this craziness? For only crazy people would think that they could complete by their own efforts what was begun by God. Answer this question. Does the God who lavishly provides you with his own presence, his Holy Spirit, working things in your lives you could never do for yourselves, does he do these things because of your strenuous moral striving or because you trust him to do them in you? And do you see how this passage, how it's a God who doesn't just do things for you, but does things in you? Which means you cannot just take some money and put it into a machine and hit a button and get what you want out of the deal. Do you see how that text actually takes the transactional out of God? Because it's about relationship, a relationship that requires time and trust. And think of the best and healthiest relationships in your life. Don't they require time and trust? Because the truth is, if you don't trust that other person, you're not really in relationship with them, are you? You know, in another New Testament letter, this one's called Ephesians, written to the people in Ephesus, the first century church in Ephesus, and the author is praying for his people, and he drops this beautiful line in his prayer, and I love this one. He says, I ask God to strengthen you by his Spirit, not a brute strength, but an inner strength. Oh, that's good, isn't it? That makes sense, doesn't it? Because see, God in the spiritual life isn't about God just stepping in to remove all the hard or God stepping in to change everyone around you, but it's actually about a God who's changing you, building in you an inner strength so that you can endure all the hard things that are undoubtedly going to come your way in this life. Ann Voskamp, she's a New York Times best-selling author. She wrote a book called The Waymaker, and she said it this way: God isn't transactional. making deals with us of no pain in exchange for faithful love. God is relational, making the way to be with us through pain because God is faithful love. God doesn't keep us from suffering. God keeps us through it. You see, my brothers and sisters, God is better than dope. The spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. It's slow and it's steady and it's enduring. And here's the other reason why I think this stuff actually matters. Do you know that the most common question I get, and maybe you receive this question too from some of your friends or colleagues, it's a question often asked by those who are newer in recovery. They'll say things like, man, I just don't know what God's will for my life is. Or we say things like, well, I just don't know what God wants me to do with my life. As if God has some sort of master plan all laid out for you, all pre-planned for you, and you just got to do the really hard work of arranging the puzzle pieces correctly or finding the one right path, the one that God has created for you, and that sucks for you if you miss that one. And why do we do this? Because we are addicted to certainty. We want easy answers, and we want them now, and we want more of them, and we don't want tension. We don't want to wrestle with ourselves. We don't want to wrestle with God. We just want the feel-goods of easy answers. Just tell me what to do. And y'all know the problem with that. God's not dope, and the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. Do you know, midway through my seminary career, I hit this sort of existential crisis in my life. And I called a friend and mentor of mine, still a dear friend of mine to this day. And I said to him, man, I just don't know what God wants me to do. If God wants me to be a pastor or if God wants me to be a professor. And you know I've been burned by religion. I've been burned by the church. And so maybe I can just be a professor and do all the things that I love, but I'm not deeply involved in people's lives. I said, I just don't know what God wants me to do. And I thought he was going to give me the answer. And do you know what he said to me? It was so offensive. He said, Ryan, I don't think God cares what you do with your life. And this is a man of faith. And he said, but I think God cares a great deal about how you do your life and the person that you are becoming. Now that's uncomfortable. Because what you're telling me is there's no real easy answers and that it's not all planned out for me. And what you're telling me is there's no, if I work really hard to find the right path, then I'm going to get the hidden gem at the end. And I would ask you, is it possible that you are overthinking your life and searching for something that does not exist? Many will say, well, I just want to know my purpose in life. That's an easy one. You want to know your purpose? I mean, that's simple. People have told us in very simple terms. In fact, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us on page 77 that our real purpose is to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Yeah, but God, what do you want me to do with my life? Serve God, serve others. I know it sounds too simple, doesn't it? I mean, God, but what's your will for my life? Because you got to understand, I'm a very spiritual person and I just want to follow God. What's your will for my life? I would encourage you to give up that prayer immediately. It will get you nowhere. The Apostle Paul was traveling with his companion Silas, and they were starting another movement in this city called Thessalonica. And Paul stayed in touch with them through writing letters. You can find these letters in the New Testament. They're called Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. And he fell in love with these people. In fact, 14 times in this short letter, he refers to them as brothers and sisters. And these people, they're so filled with anxiety. They are so anxious about everything in life. And he says, fine, y'all keep asking me. You want to know God's will for your life? I'll tell you, but it has nothing to do with your career or your vocation or a particular path. But I can tell you God's will in one sentence, and he drops this line on them. Rejoice always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. What? And maybe you hear that and you're like, nah, Paul, you must have misunderstood the question. I mean, what's God want me to do with my life? And I could imagine Paul saying back to us, no, I didn't misunderstand the question. You're looking for this secret plan in your life, this secret path, but God is not concerned about that. God is concerned with your heart in this life. See, we've been trained to think of God's will for us being about an occupation or a path or a project, and maybe it's way more about a relationship and our posture towards God in this life. So in other words, maybe God is not at all concerned with whether or not you become a musician or a CEO or an entrepreneur or a gas station attendant. But God is really concerned with what kind of musician or CEO or entrepreneur or gas station attendant will you become? What kind of person will you become? A prayer that you might want to throw out right away is, God, what's your will for my life? And a prayer you might want to pick up is, God, what's your life for my will? Oh, it seems so backwards, doesn't it? I mean, is what you're saying to me is I got to think deeply about my life. I got to think deeply about my passions and the things I want to do in this world and who I become. And yeah, you actually get to align yourself with who God is. And my brothers and sisters, God is not dope. And the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. But I can tell you this. If you remain on the spiritual path, even while at the same time holding all your questions, all your doubts, all your tensions, all your uncertainties, if you remain on the spiritual path, I do think it'll change you. It will change you along the way. It's changing me. And so you have to be careful with the spiritual stuff, because one day you might wake up and you actually start liking the person you are becoming. I can tell you, I don't wake up every day anymore and look in the mirror and hate the person that I see staring back at me. Man, how'd that happen? Man, that's like miracle stuff. I can tell you today, when things go south in my life, I no longer blame God. I look for God, but I don't blame God. I can tell you that when I pray, I no longer pray for God to change everyone around me, change him, change her, change the circumstance, because I realize the spiritual practice of prayer changes me and my inner life. I can tell you, when things are hard, when things are really hard in life, I no longer look to God and say, God, you're not good. Screw this stuff. I'm walking the other way. I can, with authenticity, say, God is good, even in the midst of the hard, because God for me is no longer a transaction. It's a relationship, and God is going with me and with you. I can tell you today that God-given inner strength, I can lean into that. I can lean into that to keep me centered in the midst of the storm. And by the way, it's the same God-given inner strength that allows me to say, no matter what happens today, I do not have to pick up a drink. I do not have to pick up a drug today, no matter what. And y'all, here's the real kicker. If your heart is in alignment with who God is, then I think it's like God looks at you and says, all right, let's go. Go do whatever the heck you want to do in this world, and I will go with you. My brothers and sisters, God's not dope. And the spiritual life is not your next dopamine hit. It's better than that. So, I'll invite you to take a moment and reflect. Who is God to you? Have you been using God as a dopamine hit? Did you trade addictions? This song is by U2. It's called Beautiful Day. If you want to stand and sing and shout and dance, you're welcome to, or you can simply reflect. This time is yours. right, raise your hand if you've never heard that song. Oh my goodness, I don't want to point y'all out, but these are the people who just had their hands up that aren't truly living. So tonight you are living. You're welcome for that page. Okay, well, if you're new with us this evening, you should know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house to join us in the living room to share some of their experience, strength, and hope. And I know some of you are going to know this guy. His name is Andrew Swenson. Some of you are going to know him because 3 years ago, and we're going to talk about it this time, we left it out of the last one, so don't let me forget it this time. 3 years ago, Andrew, see, he got sober in 2019. About 3 years ago, he did a letter to your addiction. Those are videos we put out here where y'all write a letter to your addiction, and Danny, our digital content director, he films it, and then we show it and we put it on social and other places. But he did that, and he said it was actually life-changing for him. And Andrew, the reason I invited him here tonight, he's doing this really cool thing in the world that affects all of us, addicts and alcoholics, and the loved ones of addicts and alcoholics, because y'all know we're a community for addicts and loved ones and spiritual refugees. So y'all help me welcome my friend Andrew Swenson into the living room. Glad you're here. Andrew, welcome back, man.
Glad to be here.
So, yeah, don't let us forget to talk about Letter to Your Addiction. But before we do that, I'd love for people to just get kind of the backstory of how was addiction for you? What did recovery look like? How did it happen? Just give us the high level, the brief of the story.
Yeah, so alcohol really became a big part of my life in high school, and it stayed a part of my life, and it really started to fall apart in like 2015. And from about 2015 to 2017, it got really bad. In 2017, I landed in the hospital, the ICU, for a few days, and was in really bad shape.
Yep.
I got out, and I really had no idea what to do. But I had some experience with someone I knew that had gone to treatment, so I kind of followed in those footsteps. And for about a year, I was kind of in and out, treatment and sober and back in my addiction. In 2018, I kind of hit my ultimate bottom, and I really had nowhere left to go. So I found myself in a detox, living in a detox for 7 days. Sober, which is, you think detox is bad when you're drunk.
Dude, that really was a bottom, huh?
And I found a sober living, and I finally got into one and pursued sobriety my own way.
Your own way.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for you?
Better verbiage is no way. Really true. I just stayed sober, and I did it for like a year, and I'm like, this is sweet. This is good. But it wasn't. So in 2019, I found myself at a Nuggets game, and, here, let me back up. I got engaged to my now wife.
Can I have Chandra? I did this last service. Chandra, can you just wave to people? Many of you know Chandra. Chandra is a therapist, a counselor. She used to be our on-site counselor here. And then, as I said last service, she did leave us for good things that came your way. We are not bitter about it. We're happy for you, Chandra. But we do miss you around here. So I'm glad you're here tonight. Okay, Andrew, follow on with the story.
So we got engaged. A month after that, I found myself at a Nuggets game, and I was offered a beer. And I couldn't say no. I convinced myself, I'm like, I'll hang on to it. I won't drink it. It'll be okay. But at the root was like, I was so ashamed that I was an alcoholic.
Yeah. And you didn't want people to know.
No.
Yeah.
No one really had any idea. It wasn't something that I really shared, which, Q, Letter to Addiction, is why it's so impactful. But
yeah.
So I relapsed, and I kind of went after it for a month, and
my fiance at the time caught on and was like, listen, like, you got to figure this out. And she gave me some pretty serious ultimatums. And I mean, if I'm perfectly honest, she doesn't like me saying this, but like, I don't know where I would be today without her doing that.
What were some of the ultimatums she gave you? To stay together, you must do this.
I had to get honest, I had to work a program, and I had to get counseling.
Not from her, though.
No.
Yeah.
I do, though, daily.
I believe it, brother.
I don't always
believe
ask
it.
for it.
Freely given.
No, so I got into the rooms. I found a sponsor, and I went through some sponsors until I found the right one.
Yeah.
And I found an amazing guy, still my sponsor today. And 4 years later, it's worked. I mean, I've failed a lot. I tried a lot of different wrong ways, and I tried a lot of different right ways.
And isn't it interesting, going back to the beer at the Nuggets game, how we tell ourselves the story of, I can't just say, no thanks. I have to tell them I'm a raging alcoholic, and let me tell you how this is going to send me to prison, and I'm going to lose my whatever. I couldn't just say, no thanks, I'm good.
It's still incomprehensible to me. My wife is, a normie, a non-alcoholic, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And I see her, she doesn't drink. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, and you're not even an alcoholic.
Like, you could order wine tonight at dinner, but you don't, you're
it's
good?
baffling to us, man. We will never understand it.
So yeah,
okay.
I couldn't say no. I thought they would be like, you're insane.
Yeah.
Why are you saying no? Like, it was that crazy.
The stories we tell ourselves. So if you're offered a beer tonight, I'm pointing to you online people and in-house people, all you have to say is, no thanks, I'm good. You don't have to go into the whole story.
It's totally normal.
But you got tired of the masks you were wearing. You were trying to be this, and whatever person someone needed you to be, that's who you were trying to be. And you didn't want people to know the real Andrew. That was terrifying. So as we're sitting in my office last week chatting, he said, dude, you'll never know how much that letter to your addiction, how it changed me. And we put it out on the Facebook and the Instagram and YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. Yeah. I had no clue this was like a big thing in your life. Tell us how it was a big thing in your life, this 3-year-old story.
Well, since we had that conversation, I was trying to remember why I even said yes.
Yeah.
Because to be perfectly honest, then saying yes to that it wasn't like in my agenda. I don't know if it was God or I just knew or what it was, but I said yes, and it was the most uncomfortable thing. I remember for so long I was writing what I was gonna, my letter, and I was rewriting it, and I'm like, man, I am trying to make this like the perfect letter. And I was like, this is such a messy thing. And I think I remember sitting outside of Danny's house, and I like threw it away, or I just like rewrote it or whatever it was, and I sat down in front of the camera and I read it, and I made mistakes, and I was like, oh, we have to redo it. And he's like, oh no, we'll just edit it, we're good. And I'm like, so it's done.
Yeah,
like,
he's good at doing that. He does it to me too.
there's no backing out. And I was terrified to watch it, and then I saw like the response.
Yeah. So it got put on Facebook.
Yeah. So it was shown during the service,
Yep.
and then it was out on Facebook, and the response was crazy. And I shared it on my Facebook page, which at this point, if you went to my Facebook page, you would have no idea I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I did not share it. And people from my past that I didn't even know, like, I was friends with anymore, like, good for you, like, congrats, this is so powerful, oh my gosh. And then what happened next was people that I had no idea had a problem with alcohol started sending me text messages.
Yes.
I need help. I think you might know something about what I'm struggling with, like, can you help me? And so now to this day, when I'm having a hard time, when I'm feeling down, I'm feeling different, I'm like, man, I don't want to be an alcoholic anymore. I go back to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I read the comments, sometimes I just read or listen to the letter. But there is so much power in facing that fear.
Yeah. And, that's why our mission here is breaking the silence of addiction. It's why we have a guest storyteller every week to share some of their story, because people out there need it. Sometimes we stay so anonymous, it's actually deadly. Yeah. Breaking the silence of addiction. So I want to transition a little bit, Andrew, to Andrew comes to us as also a loved one of someone battling the disease of alcoholism. So you are an addict in recovery yourself, and you are the loved one of, which is very important for this community. He's needing help, and this actually changed your kind of, I don't want to say trajectory in life, but it's put you on this path where you're doing something new, and I want people to hear about it because I think this is for all of us here, and give us just a little backstory of why you started this.
Well, it really, it stemmed from my journey, my struggle, my gift of desperation, but it happened after that. Like, it didn't happen during that. And then it happened. I have a loved one that's really been just having a tough time with it, and through experience, I just kind of recognized, like, it is so hard to find the help that you need. You know, we talk about, like, stay on the inner side of the circle in the rooms, but when you haven't ever been inside the circle, you don't know where to find the circle.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And then I was in the circle, and I had a loved one that was seeking help, and I was still struggling to find the help. You can find it, you can Google it, but it was like the right help.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's like, I don't have any money and I need sober living, and I'm just like,
Yeah. And it's a call I get all the time. I don't have any money, but I need treatment. Don't have any money, but I need sober living. And these are people who really need help. I mean, thank God we have the 12-step rooms of recovery everywhere, but sometimes people need more help, medical help. And dude, that's why I'm so glad you're doing this, because we're on the inside and it's difficult.
Yeah.
If you're new to this and your son or daughter or brother or sister, mom or dad, whoever it is struggling, dude, it's messy. You don't know what to do. So Andrew is putting together something. Tell them about it.
So it's Step One Recovery Resources, steponerecovery.org. It's an online resource directory of everything, anything and everything you might need, whether you're an addict trying to start the journey, or you're trying to maintain the journey, or you're a loved one trying to help someone get on the journey. It's an online resource of everything recovery, sober living's events, jobs, information, where to get bus passes, where to get insurance, where to get, different food banks. The goal here is to just be that one place that if you need help, you can go and you can get it, and you can get it easily, and you can get it clearly.
Yeah. And Free Recovery Community is on there as a resource. We registered this week.
Yes.
Maybe you're a sober living or a treatment center. I would highly encourage you to get on this website and be listed there as a resource, especially if you're one of the good ones, because we need those resources. And it's not just about us. It's the family members who are watching their loved ones die who need these resources. And, dude, and I think it's really important to say, Andrew didn't just step into this because he's like a great web designer, all right? Andrew stepped into this because he saw a need. He's personally affected by this need with someone he loves, and he's one of us, so he's actually on the inside, and he saw a need that could help other people, and you didn't know how to create a website. You just started doing it, and you didn't quit your day job to do this and try to say, oh, this is going to be my new thing, and no, you work your day job, and then this is like keeping you up late at night.
Yeah, well, it's been something that's been on my mind for a long time. Like I said, it's morphed.
Yep.
A few months ago, maybe like November, I don't really know what it was, but I got this urge, and I jumped on and I started building a website. And I've learned a ton. And about 3 weeks ago, my wife was like, just do it. Because like every night I'm at home
That's
and
good advice.
I'm tweaking it and I'm adjusting it, and this isn't good enough. I don't like the way this looks. And she's like, just do it.
Yeah.
And I did, and it's been received well. But yeah, it's my job after my job. It's funded by me and my wife. But it's a huge need.
Yeah. So next year at this time, hold me to it, I want you to come back here and tell us some of the success stories of people who said, man, I didn't know where to go to help, and I went to your website, And then I ended up in transition sober living because Scott was listed on there, or I got the best counseling from Chandra, or whatever, or I got connected at free. I want to hear, and I hope this thing turns into, it's going to help a ton of people out.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, this is Andrew Swenson. He's going to be sticking around for a few minutes after the service. If you want to connect to him, if you want to go to the website, check him out at the website or talk to him afterwards. Andrew Swenson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Grateful for you.
Just do it. That's great advice, Chandra. If you've got something you're dreaming about, man, there's a lot of power in just doing it. Just start. All right, y'all, the way we close things down on a Saturday night here at Free is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with heartaches, because what we know is each and every week we can try to carry these heavy burdens around. And then what happens is they weigh us down, and we think we got to do it alone, and we find out we suck at doing it alone. It's why we have people, community, connection. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you're here tonight or you're online tonight, if you're here, just simply raise up your hand, and Chandra and Andrew will pass around a mic. If you need prayer or lifting up or encouragement along the way, that's why we have community. If you're online, drop your heartache in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, and we'll join with you there. We take 3 minutes for this. This time is yours.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and my sponsor, she's been going through treatment for breast cancer. So I just wanted to uplift her in prayer. Her name is Monica. She's absolutely amazing. She's done so much for me. So I just want to put her in our prayers to lift her up. Thank you.
All right. Prayers for Monica. Thank you for sharing, Melanie. It should be on.
My ex-boyfriend, we currently have a 3-month-old together, and he's currently struggling with methamphetamine. So if we could pray to hopefully he wants to start going to recovery, please, because yeah, we have a 3-month-old together. His name is Mark.
All right.
Or not my baby, but my ex-boyfriend's name is Mark.
We're gonna pray for Mark. He finds his way to recovery.
My name is Yanis, and I would like prayer to be able to get my twins back in my care.
All right. Prayers for you. We see it happen all the time here. It's one of the greatest joys we get here is to see moms and dads get their kids back. So keep doing recovery.
My name's Grant, and so I switched from day shift to night shift, and like having the trigger of wanting to use methamphetamine, and still struggling with using sometimes. So yeah, I definitely love some prayers from people. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Lifting you up tonight, and I'm glad you're here. Keep coming back, as they say. Anyone else? All the way in the back.
Hey, I'm Chance. I'm just looking. My 1-year-old daughter is having surgery this coming weekend. Just it's weighing very heavily, and so just looking for all the prayers that possibly can at this time.
Absolutely, Chance. Prayers for your family and that little girl. Yeah, that's a heavy weight to carry. Yeah. Anyone else?
My name's Jim, and about a week ago, I was let go of my position at down at the Brown Palace after 42 years as a doorman. And I really want to thank my wife. For helping me through this, and because I got in a car accident accidentally too, and she's been helping me with a lot of things. But I want everybody to know that I love her dearly. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm glad you're here tonight. And we've got one more.
I'm Kay. I have two good friends who have loved ones that are homeless and struggling with alcoholism and drug and substance addiction. And I just would like to lift them up.
Yeah. Prayers for them. Thank you for that. Chandra, do you want to join me up here to join some of the online people? I think that would be a great idea because we got to see Andrew's other half. Sandra Swenson, ladies and gentlemen. You get nervous? You don't have to be nervous. All we're going to do is you're going to look at that screen and read our online heartaches. You take the first one, then I take the second one, then we go back and forth. How's that?
Okay.
You've done this with me before.
I know. I get
It's just
nervous
been a
every
minute.
day.
That's great.
That's
right. Throw that back at her.
Touche. Carrie Hunt, prayers for Ken and Julie in Seattle. Can we hope for speedy recovery prayers?
All right. Prayers for Ken and Julie. Tyler says, I'm at PVH, Parker Valley Hope, trying to stay clean off fentanyl. Prayers for you, Tyler. You're in a good place. Keep working it, man.
Dan says, my friend Carolyn just came out of detox and could use some love.
All right. We're going to lift up Carolyn tonight. Prayers for Carolyn. Marty says, my heartache, I'm carrying around and going through it alone. Dude, Marty, I'm glad you're here with us tonight. You don't have to do it alone, brother. It's the beauty of community, so keep connecting, and prayers for you.
Martha says, pray for Carol and Howard, dear friends in Atlanta. They are facing illnesses and issues that confront older people in our community, and they need kind thoughts.
All right, lifting them up. Thank you, Martha, and thank you, Chandra, for being here with me tonight. You made it. You didn't even pass out or anything. It was great. All right, y'all, listen, if this is your place, your home, your community, your tribe, your people, if you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, well, we encourage your generous giving here. It makes a big difference. I know many of you have made this a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life, and we just always like to take the opportunity every single Saturday night and say thank you and to remind you, yes, it does truly make a difference. Without your giving, the truth is we don't exist. So when I say I'm grateful, that's what we mean. We're really grateful for it. If you would like to give in this community, there's a few different ways to do it. The first way is to download the app, the Free Recovery Community app. It's free to download. All of our content is on there. Guest Storytellers, letters to your addiction can be found on the app. There's a giving button. You can give weekly or monthly or one time, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. Or there's directly go to the website, same thing, freerecoverycommunity.com, and there's a giving button there. Or there's two giving baskets just beside Bobby here is one of them. Beside these doors, they cleverly say giving on them, and there's one just outside these doors for you cash carrying type people, which I know there's not a lot of you. And I'll keep saying this for a little bit because it's important to know, there's the dip jar just on this table outside these doors, 10 feet that way. The dip jar, it's a really cool thing. You just literally slide your credit card in and you slide your credit card out, and you can't give more or less than $20. It's set at $20. And then once you pull your credit card out, it lights up and you get all feel good butterflies inside because you've done something good. And by the way, you can dip as many times as you want, as many credit cards as you want. It all makes a difference here. So you're going to donate afterwards in the dip jar. Way to go, Bill. Thank you for that. All right, y'all. Shall we? Thank you for participating and giving here, though. It truly makes a difference. So really, gratitude. Shall we go out with a prayer? No, we shouldn't do a prayer tonight, actually. And that's not a joke. This is a prayer, but it's a blessing. And blessings were said over the people, and you would walk out and the blessing would hover over you, kind of like a benediction. So the Latin bene, good, dictus, word, a good word, and they said that it would hover over you when you leave. So I want these words to hover over you as you leave tonight, but I will invite you just kind of, instead of opening your hands this way, without being super awkward to the person in front of you or beside you, just kind of extend your hands out to the world so that you can offer this blessing not only to yourself, but to the ones sitting around you. And we're all going to say this blessing together if you're comfortable with it. So if you're at home online right now, just do one of these awkward things. And we're going to send this blessing out. We'll say it together. This is a Franciscan blessing, and it's only part of it. The actual blessing is much longer, but I just took the first part. And I had this in my wedding almost 20 years ago. I have no clue why I picked it for our wedding, but I did, and I still love it. And it goes like this. Let's say it together. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships so that you may live deep within your heart. Amen. Grace and peace to you.